Welcome to Highlight&Go. Highlight&Go is a Chrome extension which helps you in data extraction for systematic reviews, and especially for mapping studies. For that, it provides color-coding highlights within the primary studies. But what is the problem that is trying to solve? Let's illustrate it. This is Nate. Nate is a PhD student who is conducting a mapping study in software product line evolution. He had already defined a protocol to conduct his mapping study, where was specified the research questions that he wants to solve. He developed a protocol, and then that protocol was validated with the help of his supervisor, Helen. One of the outputs of the protocol is the classification scheme. SPL Evolution Mapping Study has defined 4 different facets. For each facet, he had already defined which ones are the possible codes. After that, they started to conduct the review, identifying the research, selecting the studies, and assessing the quality of them. Now Nate is ready to start with the data extraction phase. The recording of mapping studies is usually done using spreadsheets. In this case, we can see how Nate already has recorded the primary studies and their corresponding metadata. Now, while reading, he needs to record the corresponding codes for each facet, but how are these cells populated? Nate has the PDF documents where he uses a PDF visor or the reading realm, where he reads and annotates the primary studies. On the other side, he has the spreadsheet or the recording realm, where he will record the mapping. While reading, he needs to move to the spreadsheet to record the classification. Then he returns again to the primary study and constantly he needs to move from the reading realm to the recording realm. Could we do better? Of course, now we are going to move the reading realm and the recording realm to the web. As we move them to the web, we facilitate the interoperability between them and we can augment the functionality for each realm. Derived from the possible values set in the classification scheme in the spreadsheet, we can derive a color-based highlighter. As Nate is reading on the reading realm, we can augment the PDF visor with the highlighter to allow him to highlight using a color coding mapping. For that, we develop Highlight&Go. Highlight&Go is a Chrome extension which augments the PDF visor with a color highlighter, but also, it automatizes the recording in the classification spreadsheet. Now Nate is able to read and map in the same realm, and Highlight&Go will populate the spreadsheet using the highlights. But, how is that possible? In traditional spreadsheets, we don't relate the rows of a spreadsheet and the different PDFs. However, on the web, we can create hypersheets. Hypersheets are the evolution of the spreadsheets, where the content is URL intensive. A hypersheet has a link to each of the PDF documents and each PDF is related to a specific row where the recording is done. In that way, Highlight&Go is able to automatize the recording process. So, Highlight&Go is a Chrome extension for Google Sheets, and it automatically populates spreadsheets out of highlights on primary studies. As we already saw, manual recording is time-intensive and error-prone. However, with Highlight&Go we can automatize the recording based on highlights on primary studies. But, there are other nuisances during data extraction that we can improve. To reduce bias, it is important to provide high traceability to the rationales on the primary studies. It will help Helen during data checking. But manual recording, usually, offers poor traceability. Imagine now that Helen is checking the classification for a certain primary study. Helen looks at the spreadsheet, but she is unable to check the classification only using the codes. Sometimes she needs the rationales used by Nate. For that, she asks him about the annotated PDFs, and then she needs to manually look for and check the rationales within the PDFs. However, Highlight&Go offers links from the recording realm to the reading realm. While Nate records the codes using highlights, it automatically creates hyperlinks to move to the annotation that grounds the code for the paper at hand. When Helen visits the spreadsheet, she is a click away from the rationales highlighted by Nate. Clicking on the link, the first highlight for Analyze and Plan is automatically located, and notice that checking mode is activated. Sometimes more than one quote is used to sustain a code. With Highlight&Go, Helen can navigate through the rationales that sustain the code. For that, she just clicks on the annotation and she will be redirected to the next one. Also, the sidebar works as an index to go over the rest of the facets. Third, there is no an easy mechanism to monitor the conflicts and its resolution. Imagine that for reviewing some papers, a peer review approach is used. Now is when John comes in. John will read, map and record independently those papers. At the same time, Nate is going to classify those papers too. The first of the problems of this approach is that Helen has not an easy way to know the current status of the mapping study. Are the primary studies already classified? Have they any conflicts where I need to focus on? The only way to know the current status is analyzing their spreadsheets or directly asking them about it. To detect a conflict, they require to spend some time comparing both sheets. After comparing both sheets, they detect a conflict. We can see here that Nate has classified the primary study for facet evolution activity as Analyze and Plan. However, John thinks that it should be Implement. That detection requires time, and it can increase further for multivalued facets like Asset Type. Apart from that, when the conflict is detected, they need to locate their own annotations in the primary study and discuss about it. Sometimes they might not reach to an agreement, so Helen comes in to resolve the conflicts and validates the classification. For that, she also will need both PDFs and the rationales taken from the primary study. At the end, she will validate the classification in the spreadsheet. On the other side, Highlight&Go monitors the annotations done by the reviewers. Each of them will classify independently the primary studies. Now John is classifying the primary study with the codes on the left-hand side. Notice that the mapping mode is activated. In the mapping mode, the reviewer will only see his own annotations. Concurrently, Nate is also classifying the primary study with the codes on the right-hand side, over the same PDF document on the web. As we can see, conflicts can arise. In this case, while John has coded the primary study as Identify Change, Nate has coded it as Analyze and Plan. It is automatically detected in the hypersheet and marked with red background. Now, Helen can see at a glance the current status of the mapping study, which primary studies are under classification process, which ones are classified, the ones which have a conflicting coding, and the ones already validated by her. Additionally, if she clicks on the link of a conflicting cell, she will be redirected to the document in the checking mode of Highlight&Go. There, she can easily check which one is the conflict. She can follow the rationales for each reviewer, filtering by user on the sidebar. And she can navigate through the facets in the left-hand side. If she is agree with the current classification, She can validate the corresponding code at any moment, right-clicking on the annotation, and automatically is logged in the spreadsheet. In conclusion, which ones are the takeaways? 1. Highlight&Go provides automatic population of spreadsheets based on the highlights during the data extraction process. 2. It provides a mechanism to detect the mapping disagreements in multi-reviewer mapping studies. 3. The checker can resolve easily the disagreements directly in the PDFs. This was the short demo of Highlight&Go. Remember that you can try Highlight&Go, downloading the extension from the Chrome Web Store. And if you are interested on it, don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you for watching.